She caught my gaze and smiled, then whispered, "You've got that look again." And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The first time the narrator notices her in that quiet, sunlit cafe, it feels almost like déjà vu. He's sitting at a corner table, absent-mindedly stirring his coffee, when he sees her enter. Her presence is subtle, yet magnetic. There's a confidence in the way she moves, an ease that draws his eyes without effort. She isn't loud, isn't demanding attention, yet something about the tilt of her head and the gentle sway of her steps commands it anyway. As she scans the room, their eyes meet. There's a flicker, quick, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. And then comes the teasing whisper, almost casual, yet loaded with recognition. "You've got that look again." The narrator freezes for a moment, heart tightening and warmth rising to his cheeks. That simple sentence carries more weight than it seems to. It's a recognition of him noticing her, of the unspoken attention he has long tried to hide. He tries to hide his smile, but she's already laughing softly, the sound light and musical, and he feels drawn into her orbit. He notices the details, the soft curve of her lips, the way her eyes catch the sunlight streaming through the window, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the warm coffee aroma in the room. It's a sensory overload in the most gentle way, grounding him yet making his pulse quicken. Inside, he's aware of a familiar flutter, that electric hum of connection he thought he'd imagined the first few times they'd met. There's history in that gaze, layers of unspoken understanding, and a hint of something more, something he isn't ready to name aloud. Every small gesture she makes, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, adjusting her scarf, the light pressure of her fingers brushing her coffee cup, feels intentional and yet effortless, like she's aware of the effect she has on him without even trying. He recalls past encounters, brief conversations, shared smiles, subtle moments of physical closeness that lingered longer than polite distance allowed. None of them were overtly romantic, yet now, in the pause between their words, in the silence that hums around them, he realizes that tension has been building quietly all along. She leans slightly closer as she speaks, just enough for him to feel the warmth radiating from her. The simple act sends a ripple of awareness through him, making every nerve alert to the smallest motion she makes. By the time she walks away, leaving a casual hint of farewell in her smile, he feels both exhilarated and unsettled. That look she caught him with, the one she named, has set the stage for something inevitable. It's the first spark of a connection that will grow slowly, gently, yet irresistibly, over time. He sits back, savoring the memory of the glance, aware that it will haunt his thoughts in the quiet hours ahead, pulling him back to her presence long before the next meeting. The cafe, the sunlight, the smell of coffee, they are secondary now. The real gravity is her, the warmth of her smile, the subtle power in her gaze, the unspoken understanding that lingers in the air. That look, it is both a question and a promise, and he already knows he will spend the coming days trying, subtly, to earn her notice again. The next meeting carries a different energy. He notices her across the room before she sees him, her posture relaxed yet confident as she sifts through a stack of papers or adjusts her jacket. His heart flutters, not just because she's beautiful, but because there's a familiarity now, a recognition that this connection is mutual. She knows he notices her. And he knows she knows. When their eyes meet, there's that subtle lift of her brow, the almost imperceptible curve of a smile that feels private, meant only for him. "You've got that look again," she teases softly, leaning slightly against the counter, her body language casual but carefully poised. It's playful, yet there's an undeniable depth beneath it, an awareness that he's drawn to her in ways either of them fully articulate. He responds with a small, self-conscious grin, aware of the warmth creeping into his chest. Their conversation begins lightly, almost mundane, comments about the weather, the rhythm of the cafe, or a shared observation about the people around them. Yet beneath every word, there's a current of tension, a charged undertone that makes ordinary dialogue feel intimate. He notices how she tilts her head when she laughs, the way her eyes briefly soften when she listens, how the light catches the subtle highlights in her hair. Each gesture is small, seemingly inconsequential, yet it leaves him acutely aware of her presence. There's a gentle playfulness in her interactions, A nudge of her shoulder as she passes by, a fleeting brush of fingers when handing him a book or a notebook. Each touch is light, but intentional enough to make his pulse quicken. He wonders if he's reading too much into it, yet the sincerity of her smile tells him otherwise. There's comfort in the subtle closeness, a quiet reassurance that their connection is acknowledged and shared, even if unspoken. At one point, they lean toward each other across a small table, their knees almost brushing. It's accidental, but the pause lingers longer than necessary, both of them aware of it. He feels the warmth radiating from her, a sensation both calming and electrifying. In that brief proximity, there's a shared understanding, a silent conversation conducted through glances, breaths, and the smallest of movements. The environment fades into the background. The clatter of cups, the soft music playing overhead, the hum of conversation, all become peripheral to the subtle, magnetic pull between them. Even the scent of her perfume, mixed with the faint aroma of coffee, seems sharper, more intoxicating in his awareness. By the time they part, exchanging light, teasing words and lingering smiles, he feels a sense of anticipation he can't quite shake. That playful acknowledgement, those fleeting touches, and the private language of glances have deepened the tension between them. It's a quiet game, an unspoken understanding that their connection is growing, drawing them closer without haste. He walks away, aware that this interaction will replay in his mind for hours, the curve of her smile, the teasing glint in her eyes, the warmth of proximity that lingers even after she leaves. And somewhere beneath his excitement is the realization that this is just the beginning, the first step of a slow, deliberate dance that neither of them is ready to name, but both are already following. There's a subtle shift in their connection, almost imperceptible to anyone else but unmistakable to the two of them. The playful teasing and charged glances of their earlier encounters give way to moments of quiet closeness, where words are secondary to presence. It's in the pauses, the comfortable silences, and the gentle touches that linger just a little longer than necessary. This time, their meeting happens in a more private setting, perhaps a shared study session, a walk along a leafy path, or sitting side by side on a park bench. The world around them continues, but in these moments, it almost disappears. He notices her gestures more intently, the slight arch of her eyebrow when she's concentrating, the way her lips curve unconsciously when she's amused, the softness in her voice when she speaks about something meaningful to her. Each detail feels intimate, grounding him in a way he hadn't expected. She begins to open up, sharing a personal story or a fleeting thought she normally keeps private. He listens, captivated not just by her words, but by the quiet trust in her expression, the vulnerability hidden behind a poised exterior. There's a warmth in knowing she's allowing him inside a part of herself that isn't for everyone. He doesn't rush to respond. Instead, he lets the silence between them carry meaning. Occasionally, he offers a small gesture, a reassuring hand on her back as she laughs, a brief brush of fingers when passing a pen, each touch intentional yet natural. The physical closeness is understated, but potent. When their hands brush accidentally, there's a small jolt, a flash of awareness that lingers in the space between them. Sitting near her, he senses the faint warmth radiating from her body, the subtle scent of her perfume mixing with the crisp air around them. Every minor interaction, leaning slightly closer to see a page, their knees almost touching, becomes laden with unspoken communication. There's an intimacy that doesn't demand words, a quiet understanding that they're both aware of the growing connection. At one point, she shifts closer, offering a comforting presence when he hesitates over a question or struggles with a thought. Her hand hovers near his shoulder, the brush of her fingertips reassuring, grounding him. In return, he feels a protective instinct stir within him, not in a domineering way, but as a desire to mirror the calm and care she extends. Their emotions are mirrored in small gestures, the gentle exhale of a shared laugh, the glance that lingers too long, the subtle smile when eyes meet unexpectedly. By the end of the moment, either of them rushes away. There's a shared recognition that something deeper is taking root, a connection built not just on attraction, but on trust, understanding, and the safety of quiet companionship. Even as they part, the memory of warmth, the brush of hands, and the steadiness of her presence remains, echoing in the narrator's mind with a soft insistence. This stage of their relationship is no longer just curiosity or playful tension. It's the beginning of emotional intimacy, an unspoken bond where proximity, touch, and mutual understanding carry as much weight as words ever could. The slow burn continues, now enriched by shared vulnerability and the comfort of being seen for who they truly are. As their connection deepens, the narrator finds himself caught in a storm of conflicting emotions. Every glance, every subtle gesture from her ignites a warmth he struggles to contain. And yet, with each flutter of his heart comes the weight of hesitation, a quiet awareness of the age difference, the social expectations, and the unspoken boundaries that hover between them. It's a tension that makes ordinary moments feel charged, ordinary words feel heavier, and ordinary touches impossible to ignore. They meet again in a familiar setting, perhaps the same café, a small bookstore, or a quiet park path. He notices her before she notices him, and for a moment, the familiarity is comforting. Then she spots him, her eyes lighting up with that same playful recognition. "You've got that look again," she murmurs, a soft teasing in her tone, but this time it carries a weight he hadn't expected, a knowingness that he feels down to his bones. He forces a small, self-conscious smile, aware of how easily his emotions betray him. Inside, he wrestles with a mix of excitement and restraint. Every instinct tells him to lean closer, to linger in her presence, to let her see the way she occupies his thoughts entirely. Yet he hesitates, aware of the subtle social line they're navigating and the caution required to honor her comfort and their own mutual respect. The quiet tension grows during their interaction. He notices the brush of her shoulder as she moves past him, the light tap of her hand when passing him a notebook. Every accidental touch lingers, resonating with unspoken longing. And in response, he finds himself hyper-aware of his own movements. The way he shifts closer, the way his hands hesitate, the way his gaze keeps finding hers even when he tries not to stare. There's a dance happening between them, a delicate balance of proximity and restraint, each learning the limits without crossing them. She seems equally aware of the pull between them. Her teasing is softer now, more intimate, yet there's a subtle caution beneath it. The small pauses before she responds to his comments, the way her eyes soften when their knees brush, the quiet exhale of her breath when he speaks sincerely, they all hint at her own internal negotiation. It's clear that she, too, feels the tug of attraction, yet both of them are carefully respecting the pace the relationship demands. In this stage, silence speaks volumes. When he looks at her, he can feel the pull of unspoken desire, yet also the protective instinct to proceed gently. The warmth of her proximity, the rhythm of her movements, even the faint scent of her perfume, all awaken a magnetic tension, but it's tempered by mutual understanding. Every glance, every fleeting touch, becomes a conversation in itself, an acknowledgement of what could be, tempered by what should remain unspoken for now. By the end of the encounter, he walks away with a mixture of exhilaration and restraint. The memory of her smile, the soft brush of her hand, and the intensity of her gaze linger, leaving him aware of the slow, deliberate pull growing between them. Conflicted desire now shapes every thought and anticipation, fueling a tension that will only grow richer as their connection continues to develop. The slow, simmering tension between them reaches a turning point in a moment that feels both ordinary and extraordinary. Perhaps it's during a quiet afternoon together in a café, or sitting on a park bench as golden light spills over the pavement, casting long, soft shadows. The narrator notices a subtle shift in her expression, a softness, a vulnerability, a willingness to linger in the space between them. It's a delicate invitation, unspoken yet unmistakable. She looks at him, her eyes holding a mixture of curiosity and something more profound. "You've got that look again," she says, her voice quieter this time, almost confessional, as if admitting something about herself in the process. The words carry a weight he hadn't realized before. They're not just teasing, they're acknowledgement of the bond that has grown between them. He exhales softly, the tension he's been carrying easing just enough for sincerity to seep into his own words. He tells her how she's been on his mind, how her presence lingers long after they part, how the sound of her laughter and the warmth of her gaze have become impossible to ignore. There's a tremor in his voice, an honesty that surprises even him. In response, she smiles, small, knowing yet open, and admits she feels it too. She admits to noticing him noticing her, to enjoying the quiet attention, the subtle care, the gentle curiosity he brings into every interaction. The confession is not dramatic, not forceful. It's gentle, careful, and grounded in the emotional reality of their connection. They are adults navigating their feelings with awareness and respect, allowing vulnerability to emerge naturally. There's a mutual recognition of what has been building, a profound attraction that goes beyond physical desire, rooted in understanding, trust, and subtle affection. As they speak, their proximity shifts naturally. He reaches out, lightly brushing her hand as he emphasizes a point, and she lets her fingers linger in his for a heartbeat longer than necessary. The contact is electric but tender, a tangible affirmation of the feelings they've both acknowledged. Their shoulders touch briefly as they lean closer, their conversation softening into laughter and gentle teasing. Every glance, every subtle motion, communicates volumes, an intimacy that words alone could never convey. There's a moment of pause, where they simply sit and observe each other, letting the gravity of their shared confession settle. The world around them, the hum of the café, the chirping birds in the park, the warm sunlight, fades to a gentle blur. All that exists is the quiet understanding that has blossomed between them, a bond strengthened by honesty, patience, and the courage to admit what has been felt for so long. By the end of this part, their relationship has taken a decisive step forward. The playful teasing, the hesitant glances, and the subtle touches have matured into mutual acknowledgement. They leave the encounter with a shared warmth, a sense of relief, and the thrilling awareness that their slow-burn connection is now no longer a secret between them. Every touch, every look, and every word has laid the foundation for something enduring, tender, and emotionally rich. The connection between them has grown quietly, deliberately, like a flame that has slowly caught and now burns steadily, impossible to ignore. This part of their story is the moment when the slow-burn tension reaches its peak, not through dramatic declarations, but through subtle vulnerability and heightened awareness of each other's presence. They find themselves in a private, intimate setting, perhaps an evening walk along a quiet street, the golden glow of street lights reflected in puddles, or sitting in a cozy corner of a library, the faint scent of old books mixing with the crisp night air. The world around them is muted, and in that hushed atmosphere, every small gesture becomes amplified, the tilt of her head, the softness of her voice, the slight tremor in her fingers as she adjusts a sleeve or tucks hair behind her ear. Their conversation turns more personal, touching on subjects they've never shared with anyone else. He speaks of his fears and uncertainties, the moments when he doubts himself, and the quiet longing he's carried in his heart. She listens intently, eyes warm and reflective, and in turn, shares her own moments of vulnerability, the quiet struggles of her life, the times she has had to hide her own emotions behind a composed exterior. There's a trust in the exchange, a recognition that they can reveal themselves fully without judgment. The emotional intimacy deepens through subtle physicality. A hand rests lightly on his shoulder, as she laughs at a shared memory. His fingers brush hers when passing a book or adjusting a scarf, lingering just long enough to make the connection feel electric but natural. Even the smallest touches carry immense significance. The warmth of her hand, the steadiness of her gaze, the gentle exhale when their knees brush slightly as they sit close together. Every sensation is heightened by the emotional weight of the moment. She catches him staring once, and with a soft smile, murmurs, "You've got that look again." This time, it is layered with something more profound, affection, acknowledgement, and an almost imperceptible desire. He feels a rush of heat, the tension between them palpable, yet tempered by care and respect. It is the delicate balance of their relationship, magnetic attraction restrained by mutual understanding and emotional intelligence. They linger in these shared silences, letting their emotions speak in ways words cannot. The quiet intimacy, the subtle touches, and the unspoken acknowledgement of their feelings combine to create a moment that feels both timeless and fleeting. The world fades entirely, leaving only the shared warmth of presence, the rhythm of breaths, and the magnetic pull between two hearts aware of what they mean to each other. By the end of this part, the emotional peak has been reached. Their slow burn romance is now undeniable, a carefully nurtured connection brimming with desire, tenderness, and understanding. It is the crescendo of longing, vulnerability, and affection, the moment before resolution, where both know that the next steps they take together will define the depth and sincerity of their bond. The tension that has been building gradually, quietly, over weeks or months finally settles into something tender and reassuring. The slow burn romance finds its culmination not in a grand gesture, but in the small, intimate confirmations of mutual understanding and affection. The narrator and she find themselves together in a peaceful, familiar setting, a sunset-streaked park, a quiet cafe with soft music, or a gentle evening walk along a tree-lined path. The air between them is lighter now, yet still tinged with the warmth of what has grown in private. He notices the familiar curve of her smile, the gentle glint of amusement in her eyes, the calm steadiness that only she can bring to his world. She, in turn, senses the change in him, the ease, the quiet confidence that comes from honesty and emotional closeness. They no longer need teasing words to convey meaning, even a shared glance is loaded with understanding. As they walk side by side, their steps naturally align. She brushes a hand lightly against his, and he responds instinctively, fingers intertwining with hers without hesitation. It is a small gesture, yet it carries the weight of everything that has transpired, the teasing, the tension, the vulnerability, the trust. Every touch, every glance, is a reaffirmation of what they mean to each other. They pause on a quiet bench, the last rays of sunlight painting her hair in soft gold. He watches the subtle play of light on her face and feels a quiet ache of gratitude for the patience, the moments, and the connection that have led to this point. She shifts slightly, leaning closer, resting her shoulder against his. There is no rush, no need to speak, the comfort of shared presence is enough. Conversation flows easily now, soft and warm. They reminisce about the small moments that marked the early stages of their bond, the playful teasing, the accidental brushes of hands, the lingering glances that spoke louder than words. There is laughter, gentle teasing, and quiet smiles, all underscored by a deep awareness of the emotional intimacy they share. The age difference, once a silent shadow, no longer feels like a barrier. Instead, it highlights the richness of their perspectives and the patience that has allowed their connection to grow naturally. As the evening deepens, they rise and continue their walk, fingers still entwined. Each step, each touch, carries the resonance of trust and affection built over time. The narrator feels a profound sense of calm, a warmth that comes from being truly seen and valued. She feels the same, an ease and comfort that accompanies emotional honesty and gentle intimacy. Their connection is now fully realized, a slow burn romance that is tender, respectful, and enduring. The story closes not with drama or finality, but with quiet affirmation. A shared smile, a lingering touch, and the soft murmur of familiar words, perhaps even the teasing echo of her line, "You've got that look again," remind both of them of the journey they've traveled together. They walk on, side by side, hearts aligned, in a bond strengthened by patience, understanding, and the quiet, unwavering power of love that has been nurtured carefully, moment by moment.